In this tutorial, I'm going to show you how to make a monster box. You can find all of the supplies that you're going to need at your local craft store or on Amazon. This is a project I did with my WizMug students. It's an after-school club, and you can get more information on the link below. On the wooden box, I will add horizontal stripes along it to make it look like pages, and I do that with the brown Sharpie. The fur I got at the fabric store. I look in the remnants department so I can get it for extra cheap. You can use an oven baked clay like Sculpey or Fimo. Last year, however, I discovered modeling foam, which is a super lightweight and flexible foam, and you can make like just about anything to it, and it air dries. But even after it air dries, it remains flexible. The only thing is that you have to have special paint to go on top of it, because if you don't use the special paint, it's going to crack. So what I like to do is I like to knead this special paint into it. And this is really messy, and your kids aren't going to want to do it, but you know, it really gives it a nice effect. So it's going to feel gross, and it's going to feel kind of almost like mushy and crumbly, but that's okay. It's totally fine, and that's expected. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to keep kneading it into there until I get the desired effect. Students should make their teeth before they work on the gums. And as you can see, as you're doing this, it gets a nice marbled effect with it. And then just mold it on top of the box and get it to where it wants to go. And this is the part that's going to take the hardest, because your teeth aren't always going to line up, especially if you have some long ones in with some short ones. So there's a lot of trial and error here. And the nice thing about this modeling clay is that, or actually modeling foam, is that you can still bend it all while you're working with it. So that's what I'm doing with it, is that I'm bending it to make sure everything's going to fit together. Whereas with the oven baked stuff, once it's dried, and there's nothing you can do about it, except for maybe break it. So since we don't want to do that, this is actually becoming a better alternative, and I'm kind of glad I've been experimenting with it. On these pieces, I'm just going to flat out paint them. I could have also kneaded it in, but you know, I wanted this one to be a more solid brown, so that's why I'm just painting it straight on. Now I'm going to add some details to my pieces. I'm going to add some poisonous like veins to the tongue, so that the poison will come out of its tongue. And my ugly brown pizza, I'm going to make it look not so much like an ugly brown pizza. So I'm going to add some more color to it, give it a brow, add a bit of detail to the snout. A little red to it. And I'm going to blend it in with a sponge brush afterwards. Or I can leave it as is. It's just kind of depends on what you want to do. The modeling foam needs 24 to 48 hours to dry. Once the modeling foam is dry, now you need to hot glue gun the pieces to the box. And then glue the eyeballs to the snout. The eyes don't all have to be the same. They could be different ones. I would just let my kids be creative with it, with how many eyes they want to add and what colors they want to use. Okay, I've glued the teeth on there, and now I'm going to add my tongue. The nice thing about this is that it's still flexible enough without it worrying about it breaking, whereas with the oven baked clay, once it's set, and there's no adjusting it or anything. So I've got this, so I'm going to put a little bit of glue there anyways, just right there, and then I'm going to squish it on there. And I'm going to give it a chance to set. And then while I'm doing that, I'm going to work on cutting the fur. Okay, I'm going to use the hot glue so I can glue it to the bottom of the box, making sure it hangs over the edges. Then I'm going to glue up the sides. And I'm going to glue up the back. I gotta be careful, and you gotta warn the kids that it can't go over the part where the box opens. Okay. And then I'm going to do the parts on the top. Now when I'm doing the parts on the top, what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut off like the little floppy pieces on the side, so it kind of looks like little claw parts are coming off of it. And then I cut around it to make it fit around the snout. I always cut conservatively first, and then if I need to make more cuts later, then I make more cuts later. And you kind of need to emphasize that with the kids as well. But if they do make mistakes, they've got all the extra scrap pieces, and they can just glue that down as well. And nobody's going to notice because it's super furry. So the furry parts kind of cover up all the mistakes that happen with it. And then you just make sure you just glue it all the way around. Make sure it hits the top part of the box so it stays there. Okay, so I did this part in my garage because when you're cutting up that fur, you're going to have lots of flotsam and jetsam everywhere. And it's kind of like when you're working with glitter and sequins in your classroom, where it doesn't matter how much you clean it, it's always going to be there till the end of the year and into the next year and into the next year. It's the same thing with the fur. I was cleaning up fur throughout the end of the year. It didn't even matter. I kept finding more fur flopping out from everywhere. So I worked on this in my garage. And then afterwards, when I'm going to take it outside, I'm going to blow off all the extra fur that's still on top of it. So in other words, be prepared for a furry mess. And here is the finished monster box, where your students can store all of their favorite Harry Potter stuff inside. And that's it.